Hey, what's going on? Welcome to episode 4 of the Former Action Guys podcast. I'm your host, Justin Kramer. Today, the podcast is going to feature my good friend from Lafayette, Indiana, Michael Hanthorne. He was a Lance Corporal in the United States Marine Corps when he got out. He was also a motor T operator, which doesn't seem like what would be your normal guess, but Michael had kind of a different deployment than most people. He was involved in Fallujah in 2004. He was attached, or his unit was basically made to be the Mortuary Affairs group that would pull up dead bodies and stuff, dead insurgents and stuff, fighting as the house clearing was going on through the city. So that's an experience that I think few can have ever had to deal with or would want to talk about. So I appreciate him coming on and talking about it and talking about the struggle he's had with PTSD and then some of the stuff that he's done to keep on pushing and living up to the good life that he's living now. So I appreciate everyone coming on. If you have any questions or anything like that, hit me up on my website, jkramergraphics.com. You can shoot me an email for the podcast. It's formeractionguyspodcast@gmail.com. Also, hey, leave a review or something like that on whichever podcast platform that you're listening to this on. I was just looking right before I got on here at some of the statistics and saw that I have 4 5-star reviews on iTunes podcast or Apple podcast, excuse me. So I appreciate those that took the time to give a rating and stuff like that, because that does help bump us up in the rating so that more people can hear these stories and stuff like that. So just an update at this point. This is the day before the release. I'm filming this the night before, recording this the night before, as I normally do. We've had over 400 either downloads or streams, so appreciate everyone listening and spreading the word and everything like that. So I'm not gonna waste some more time. I'll get to the podcast and yeah. All right, hey, welcome to the show. Today I got my buddy Michael Hanthorne on. Him and I went to high school together, and he joined the Marine Corps and did great things. So I brought him on today so he could discuss his experiences. People may wonder why I got a motor T guy on here, but but he's done some interesting stuff. So I thought it was pretty pertinent to get his story and stuff out there so that people understand that just because you're a motor T, you may not just be driving trucks or whatever. So if you want, man, go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us where you're from and why you joined the Marine Corps.
All right, I'm Mike Hanthorne from Lafayette, Indiana. Joined the Marine Corps because there ain't much to do in Lafayette, Indiana. And I was in a lot of trouble, so Marine Corps was a good option for me.
Yeah.
Of course, I don't know if they know your background, but
Of what?
Of everything.
Probably not. I don't know. So Michael, I initially tried to join in 2002, 2001, right after September 11th happened, and I ended up getting in trouble. So I wasn't able to join right then. It took me a little bit longer to get in. Soon after, I took Michael down to the recruiter and convinced him it'd be a good idea for him to sign up also. So I got my buddy to sign up, and then for his going away, because I had previously gotten in trouble, I had to wait, and he was going to leave before me. And
we were supposed to go together.
We were supposed to go together, but yeah. So ended up for his going away, I had a party and ended up getting in trouble again. So Michael left and went and joined the Marine Corps, and I'm back here dealing with legal stuff, and such is life. But so yeah, you went in 2003. Okay, when in 2003?
January 21st, actually.
Okay, so you're one of those people that went to boot camp while the rest of your graduating class was finishing up their last semester of high school.
Yeah, I actually came back the weekend that the class would have graduated.
Okay, did you go to your graduation?
No. I graduated, I think it was like January 8th, maybe.
Okay.
And then I had left the 21st, came back, and then I didn't actually go. I went to all the graduation parties, obviously.
Obviously.
Since I was back on boot leave. But
you were 18 at the time, though. Did you go at 17?
18.
Okay.
I depped when I was 17 when you took me down to the recruiters.
Did you? And you originally signed up for Motor T, right? Is that what?
No. So I actually wanted to be infantry, but of course back in post 9/11. You couldn't get an infantry job because everybody wanted to go kill fucking, Al Qaeda in Afghanistan. So I actually went an open contract.
That's what I did. I didn't know you were open contract too. That's funny.
And they're like, my recruiter was like, dude, they take infantry guys all the time. So when I was actually in boot camp, you know how when you're online or whatever, and you're like, what's your MOS? And I'm like, I'm supposed to be 03. I wanted to be an 0331, a machine gunner.
Okay.
And so I'm online the whole time, you know, calling off 03. Well, I don't know. It's probably like midway through boot camp. They're like, Hanthorne, you're fucking Motor T. And I'm like, Motor T? What the fuck?
Well, they got me. That's kind of how I think it's hard for people that are coming in nowadays to understand that in that time frame.
Yes.
That's definitely everybody was trying to get into infantry, and you could get into infantry, but you had to be willing to wait months to get into it. And
because don't they have like a quota or something they have to meet? Like you have so many slots for infantry per like area.
Yeah. So the only time that you're going to get sent away, you're going to get sent to boot camp like immediately in the job that you want is if that job is open. So something like that, infantry where there's a lot of people at that time that were trying to get in. Yeah, you had to be willing to wait, but I think your circumstances were yours weren't pressed like mine, I don't think.
No.
I mean, you knew my whole situation. So how it turns out is, and I'll fast forward real quick and then we'll come back. I finally joined in 2006, and I go to MOS school my first MOS school at Camp Johnson. And then I meet Michael here, and we ride home together. He's at Lejeune, and he was coming home to EAS, and I'm in MOS school, and I ride home with him to go home for Christmas.
When we were supposed to go together.
So I missed out on the 4 years of stuff that he did. So, all right, so you got done with boot camp and everything, and then you went out to
Lejeune.
Well, you went out to Leonard Wood.
Yeah,
How was MOS school for Motor T? I don't think anybody actually knows what Motor T MOS school is like.
So it's
for drivers, at least.
It's fucking really. I mean, it's really gay.
Pretty straightforward. Driving.
Yeah. I mean, like, of course, you know, you got a 31, which is like the guys that drive the 7 tons. Well, then they have called like Advanced Motor T School, where you go drive the LVSs.
Yeah.
So I was like, those look cool. I'm gonna go try to drive those. So I went and did that. I mean, MOS school. Plus, you're on a post. So it's full Army dudes. Their CBs were there, and there were some Air Force people.
Okay.
So, like, the only thing to do there is, like, go to strip clubs and all the normal shit. Because you can be 18 and go into strip clubs.
Were there, I think the only other MOS school, well, I guess there's 2 other ones out there, right? Seaburn, and there's also MPs out there? Yes. Did you guys ever hang out with any of those dudes, or you guys kind of stuck to yourselves?
Yeah, we kind of stuck to ourselves.
Kind of class thing, yeah.
Yeah, it's... You know, we go to the strip clubs, and that was the thing. Like, you'd be trying to get in the cab to come back. Of course, you know, I'm only 18 years old. All my buddies were 21.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they were feeding me shots, you know, like, hey, shake this shot. I mean, I never drank so much fucking tequila except in Motor T school because, like, you know, they'd be like, hey, take the shot of tequila because, you know, let's, you know, we pregame, obviously.
Get out there.
You know, then they'd be like, hey, you got to keep your buzz up. So I just do shots of tequila.
There you go. So you finished MOS school in what year? Was it 2003 also? Or?
It was 3, yeah.
And then what unit did you go to?
2nd Transportation Support Battalion, the Red Patchers.
Over at Camp Lejeune?
Camp Lejeune. French Creek.
The Red Patchers?
Yeah. I don't think it's still a thing.
You know where they wear the red patches on their uniform?
Yeah.
The AIDS Marines?
The AIDS Marines. or the in-flight missile repairmen.
I thought those were the only people that wore those were like landing support guys.
Well, so originally.
Okay.
But then they attached, because obviously landing support, you need all kinds of support, which was transportation support.
Okay.
So then they basically let us all wear red patches.
Oh, okay.
Very interesting. We were in the chow hall with a bunch of fucking people. They're like, what's wrong? Why you got these red patches? And be like, I'm an in-flight missile repairman, or, you know, all the bullshit, AIDS Marines. I've heard it all.
Yeah, someone. I saw a meme the other day. Someone said that it was horrible how they were making the transsexual Marines start wearing red patches so people knew they were. I was like,
I heard
oh
that
my
one.
God,
That's funny.
hilarious. But
I got out way before all that stuff.
So you got to your unit, and were they coming up for your first deployment, or had they just come?
Actually, I got to Bravo Company. It had to be it was October, so I got there out of MLS school. So I got hurt in boot camp, so I was remember that.
Oh, I do. I forgot about that.
So I was a month delayed. I was actually at boot camp for 4 months.
God, fuck that.
So I think it was October of 03 I got to my unit. But I just remember checking in alphas and shit. And, everybody that's a Marine or, been in the military, you have to check in uniform. So we get there and they're like, there's a hurricane coming. And I'm like, a hurricane? What the fuck,
Yeah.
So I get to the barracks, of course, met by senior lance corporals. That's my roommates, 2 senior lance corporals. Dude's been to Oki. He was in the invasion of Iraq. Like, he's a salty motherfucker. He's still got woodland camos.
Yeah,
the originals, polishing his boots and shit. That's how salty this dude is.
Were they still wearing those when you got to the fleet?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, this dude's salty. I mean, his fucking woodlands were white, if that tells you anything.
And he was a lance corporal, and he was still wearing the woodlands?
Yeah, he got in trouble in Okinawa.
I would say second award lance corporal?
Yeah. So, I get there, take my outfits off, change into my... Of course, I had, one civilian outfit then at this time. So I get in my civvies, and he's like, dude, give me all your money, man. And I'm like, what? His name's Scott Hutzel, actually. Shout out Hutzel if you listen to this. So he's like, give me all your money. We got to get beer for the hurricane. And I'm like, all right. So, I had $80 on me cash. Give it to him. He comes back with fucking Ice House, man. He's like, he said, just stay in the room. The OOD, this hurricane, they're not going to be out and shit. And so I'm drinking, fucking watching dudes jump off the second deck with poncho liners and
all the classic stuff.
Yeah, all the classic barrack antics.
This is all before everyone was posting it on Instagram too. They just did it because they wanted to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, we didn't have none of that fancy shit.
So how long were you at your unit before you guys started doing your workup? Or when did you find out you were deploying?
Actually, a couple of my buddies from MLS school, that was Haiti. That's I don't remember. They had a big...
Oh, the first Haiti.
The first
time
Haiti.
We went to Haiti.
And so, of course, I'm volunteering because I'm like, I want to get the fuck out. I don't like garrison. I'm like, fuck it, let's go. I'm going to go do what I signed up to do. So I volunteered to go to Haiti. Of course, I'm a fucking PFC. They're like, yeah, we don't need any more PFCs to go to Haiti. So they go to Haiti. Well, then I hear the workups for Alpha Company is they're going to go to Fallujah. And I'm like, all right, sweet. So me and my buddy Josh Clark, who's actually still in, shout out Clark.
He came back in too, right?
Yeah, he actually got out and went back in.
I remember that.
And so he's like, hey, let's go over there and talk to the first sergeant and see if we can get on this deployment. So I'm like, sweet. So we go over there. They're like, we only need 2. They ended up taking my buddy Dees and Clark for that deployment. So I'm like, son of a bitch, dude. I'm never going to get to deploy. So they went. We actually relieved Alpha Company in August of 04 in Camp Decotum, which you know.
Yeah, TQ.
So, we did. We went to CAX. I'm trying to remember all this shit. 4 or 5 months after they left. So it was right, we went to CAX,
So when you guys went to CAX, did you went were you attached to a BLT or were you attached to another unit or did you go as your support unit?
We went as a support unit.
When you were out there, did all you do was drive or did you do any kind of cross training?
We did mount training. We did, because the way they were talking is Fallujah was going to be taken. Of course, if you look up, the first Fallujah was already going on during this time.
Yeah.
With the 82nd.
Yeah.
So.
And I think 4th Marines was there too.
So, the way they made it sound is like Fallujah, they were going to have outposts all through Fallujah. So you remember, you were at TQ, obviously.
Yeah, yeah.
So there was that road, I can't remember the road, it ran around that lake.
Yeah.
It was like 20 minutes to Fallujah.
Yeah, I understand.
But you could never go down there because there's so many fucking IEDs.
Okay.
So that's why you had to take all those fucking crazy MSRs, and it took 5 hours to get to Camp Fallujah versus 20 minutes to get inside the city. So they trained us in mount training, and what else did we do? We ran the live fire ranges, basically the same shit everybody does.
Yeah, okay. And you were just prepping, you didn't want some kind of bullshit like Jessica Lynch, episode where you guys get ambushed and then no one
knows what the fuck to do.
Yeah. Okay.
That's good. We're Marines, though, so
obviously, yeah.
We might be Motor T, but we're still Marines.
The guns aren't rusty, damn it.
Yeah.
So, okay, so you get back from CAX and you come home, or you come back to Camp Lejeune. You took pre-deployment leave and everything? And
Yep, came back here for 10 days, I think, which is weird. Definitely a weird feeling. Of course, I'm still I turned 19 when we got to TQ, and then I was 19, because I would have turned 19 in 2013, or 2003. So yeah, I was turned 20 in TQ, and I turned 21 when we got to Al-Assad on my next deployment.
Okay. Yeah, coming home pre-deployment leave is weird, because it's like, oh, sweet, I get to come home and hang out with my friends and stuff, but at the same time, it's kind of in the back of your mind, you're like, fuck.
Well, and everybody's like, you don't have no idea. I mean, you've not...
and this was your first deployment.
So you don't know what the fuck's going on. I mean, I was really glad. I mean, you had a family, obviously, when you were in... like I was just myself, so no one came and see me actually leave.
Oh, okay.
So I always did my goodbyes on pre-deployment leave.
Okay.
So I didn't have, I was already got that shit out of the way, and I was ready to deploy. I didn't have my wife or, in your case, wife and kid, saying goodbye to you, which I think would be hard.
Harder. Oh, yeah, I mean, what what's the worst part about that is you get on the bus, and the buses never just leave. So you get on the bus and your family's like waving at you. And then some staff sergeant gets on the bus. They're like, all right, count off from the back. And you're just like, can we just move a quarter mile down the road so I don't have to stare at them and they're waving at me looking all sad the entire time? So, well, I mean, your family was there, so that's good. At least we had somebody to carry the bags. So
yeah.
Working party up.
Yeah.
So you left. So when did you actually punch out? And who did you go with? And who did you support?
We actually went with 2nd TSB Bravo Company. I got to Taqadum, Iraq, and Air Base in August of 2004.
It's a hot time to be landing in Iraq.
Yeah, it was real fucking hot. And then, of course, we get there, and you get to Kuwait, and everybody wants to ride the fucking camel and all that dumb shit. Like,
oh yeah,
I've never seen that's one thing I'll never understand. You're making. Of course, I think I was a Lance Corporal at the time. So you're making combat pay, hazard pay, all that bullshit. These motherfuckers just spend their money like it's going out of style, dude. I'm like, shit, I'm going to save my money until I get back.
Yeah, dudes buying rugs and shit in the PX. You're like, what are you doing, dude?
The only thing I ever bought on both deployments is a blanket I still use every night.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's funny.
But
so you got to TQ, and then what was your day-to-day, what kind of missions and stuff were you running out of there?
So we relieved Alpha Company, which my buddy Clark and Dees were on. So they had actually had a lot of combat engagements via convoy routes into Fallujah. So anybody that's ever been to Fallujah knows the cloverleaf. It's synonymous. The buildings are really close to the road, and I remember Dees or Clark, one of them, telling me that they were, of course, driving through night vision with what's the fucking lights called? Where you can see the lights.
Oh, the IR lights?
IR lights.
Yeah.
So you would go 10 miles from a cloverleaf. You'd be IR, night vision.
Running on the highways in IR?
Yeah.
Were there civilian vehicles out there too?
No. I mean, we went this is probably 10 o'clock at night. We'd leave TQ at 8.
Yeah.
We get to Fallujah at 1 in the morning.
And you guys never ran lights on?
I mean, on some of the MSRs we would.
But not that one.
But we passed Ramadi and we passed Fallujah, so we run IR.
Okay.
For both of them.
Yeah, throw them off for command dead IEDs.
Yeah. And he's like, dude, I'm telling you, they both told me, they're like, dude, you're gonna get attacked like a motherfucker once you hit that cloverleaf. They actually got attacked so much that by the potato factory, which I'll talk about in a little while, they actually made a new MSR that would bypass the cloverleaf. That's how much contact they took from.
So were you being attacked from the cloverleaf or from the buildings that were near
from the buildings around it?
Okay.
But they'd used IEDs and.
Did you ever run into the issue? And this is something we were briefed on, but I never actually ran into it. Of guys trying to drop stuff off the overpasses into the vehicles.
So they said that was always a threat because they wanted to drop basically like a grenade down the ring during the ring mount. But no, we never seen that because we always convoyed at night.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's right.
So, and then, so they made that MSR, which we used. Me, luckily, I never had any contact. I mean, per se from that area.
Okay.
So when we used to go to Ramadi, there's an MSR that runs right. It's a north-south road from Ramadi, and right on the edge, we actually took like RPGs, that kind of shit. Yeah. From that area.
Did they have any effective hits on your convoy? No.
You know, I mean, you've always been in. You know how RPGs are. I mean, I think the ones that the Russians use are probably pretty fucking accurate, but the ones that the Iraqis use are pretty
kind of like bottle rockets going on. Did you ever? And I don't know if this was a threat while you were there, but it was something else that we were briefed on. Was the RKG-3s? Did you ever hear of that? That's the armor-piercing round that it looked like a potato masher grenade, and they'd take the end off of it and throw it, and it'd have like a parachute to cause it to straighten out before it would hit the side of the vehicle and blow through. Nothing like that, huh? So this was, I mean, you were there in 2004, so I guess you were there before the EFPs and stuff like that
we're still running L armor on the doors, sandbags on the floors.
In 2004?
That was our IED protection.
How thick was the L armor on the doors? Like a quarter inch?
Yeah. Dude, I remember, and I'll just tell you this. If anybody says they weren't fucking scared, I'll just call bullshit. Because, I mean, you talk to people that have been in, multiple firefights in this area, and you're running with L armor. I mean, I would sink down in my seat, barely where I could see my NVGs be going through the steering wheel to drive, because I was like, that of course that was at the time in Ramadi where they had the Ramadi sniper. Okay. And I don't know if you remember.
Yeah.
I mean, that dude was he was some Syrian. He was fucking accurate as shit, and they said he could shoot through, L armor. I mean,
I think they called that dude like Juba or something like that. There were some videos for a long time online.
Well, I think Chris Kyle actually, the one who knocked him, killed him.
Actually, that's actually a misnomer. That comes up in the movie, and it's like a huge part of the movie. But I don't know if you've read the book, but in the book it's like a paragraph, and he's like, I never knew if they ever got that guy or not. So they took a paragraph out of that movie and then blew it up to be part of the storyline and make it crazier in the movie. But so all right, so you're there in August. You get there in August, and you're starting to run convoys, starting to get kind of familiar with the area and stuff like that.
So then my appendix ruptured.
That's right. Yeah, I forgot about that.
So that was. So let me backtrack. So we get there. They take a lot of indirect fire from Fallujah. I mean, I think we got mortared 200 sometimes.
Jeez.
I mean, to the point where it was like we used to run to the. I keep a references, but in TQ they had Saddam built hangars for his planes. Mm-hmm. So those
that's what we worked out of while I was there.
So we would run to them like every time. So I mean. 3, 4, 5 times a day we were running to these hangars. So it got to the point where they're like, just stay in your racks, just put your Kevlar and your.
Were you guys staying in cans or tents?
Tents.
Okay.
Tents with air conditioning.
Nice. Yeah, they pulled in these little trailer things. By the time I got there in 2009, so it was a little nicer, I think.
Yeah, it was definitely shitty. But, I mean, it is what it is. I mean, it's the deployment, so.
And how did you find out your appendix had ruptured?
So, pre-deployment leave, I was actually sick. And I was, like sick, like throwing up bile sick. Well, I went to, the corpsman, and he's like, it's just a stomach bug, whatever. Gave me some antibiotics, which definitely took the inflammation out of my appendix. So, I came home on pre-deployment leave, and I still felt shitty, but, of course, I partied my ass off, and at Gemini and all those places.
Shout out to Gemini.
Shout out to Gemini, Mario Milazzo. But so we got there, and I felt fine, dude. We did the turnover with Alpha Company. Everything was good. I literally woke up one day, and we had to go load the trucks at like 6 a.m. I got up out of my rack, and I just felt this pain like I tore my bicep. It's not anywhere near the pain of an appendix.
Jeez.
And you remember when you were in TQ, you remember the tank tracks that they had for speed bumps?
Yeah.
Imagine going through those with a fucking ruptured appendix in the back of a fucking Humvee ambulance. It was fucking terrible.
I bet it was.
So it ruptured. They removed my appendix in a tent in TQ.
Yeah, TQ had I think it was a Roll 2 surgical facility there. That's where a lot of medevacs would come in through, and they would stabilize them and clean them up there and then push them on to Germany or wherever else they needed to go after that. So did you stay? You stayed in TQ the entire time? I stayed in TQ
the entire time.
So how long were you down after the surgery?
I think 2 weeks. I stayed there for a week because it actually had been ruptured so long it actually had to take some of my intestines. It infected my 4 inches of my intestines, so they had to remove that, sew them back together. I actually had a big ass scar here where the wound was open and it had gauze packed in there.
Yeah. So
I had to stay there for a week, and they packed it.
Okay.
So after that, we started the surge ops. Because this is early September. Early September.
Had you guys been hearing that, hey, Fallujah's becoming a problem and it looks like we're going back in?
It looks like we're going back in, so we need to... we start running during the day.
Yeah.
We ran all night, and we were going we're usually making 2 trips a day to Fallujah with water,
Where were you going to Fallujah? To Camp Fallujah? Where was that located within the city, for those that don't know?
So,
was it on the edge or was it in the city?
No. It was definitely on the edge.
Okay.
Because everybody knows in 2004 Fallujah, the contractors got hung there in April. Yeah. There was a lot of Fallujah was a fucking hotbed, dude. Yeah. Just like Ramadi and all that shit. So we doing the convoys and Camp Fallujah. I'd say, did you ever go to Camp Fallujah?
No, I didn't.
I think it was 2 miles away from the city.
Yeah.
So you still got IDF.
Was it before or after the Cloverleaf? You have to pass the Cloverleaf to get to it?
Yes.
Okay. How close was the Cloverleaf to the city?
Real close.
Okay. So you have the Cloverleaf, Camp Fallujah, and then you were in the city basically right after that. Okay. Yeah. So once you guys started running the missions and stuff, this is probably about the same time. People knew this was coming, and it started getting, even in these States, I was following this. Plus part of the reason because I knew you were over there.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, I felt bad. I felt bad that I talked to him into joining, and I'm like, fuck, Mike's over there, and all this stuff's getting ready to happen. So even here in the States, I remember watching the news, and they were talking about how the military was surrounding the city, completely surrounding it, cutting it off from any kind of supplies. Yeah. And then they were telling the civilians to get out and stuff like
leaflets.
That. When did you remember any of that, and do you remember when it kind of happened?
And So how I got to do the jobs that I did. So my staff sergeant came up and said, we need volunteers to go to Fallujah. They need truck drivers to work with 3-1. And I was like, well, fuck yeah, dude. This is what I'm signed up to do.
Yeah.
I originally wanted to be a grunt. And I'm like, this fucking convoy, it sucked, dude. You've been in military equipment, it fucking sucks.
And you're running target the whole time.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm like, fuck yeah. So me and my buddy Strip, we volunteered to go. And then it came down 2 weeks later, we got slated to go. And they were going to helo us from TQ to Fallujah and then embed us with 3-1. They're like, hey, the whole unit's going, but we're doing mortuary affairs. And I'm like, what the fuck's mortuary affairs? They're like, yeah, we're going to go into the city and pick up dead bodies. And I was like, man, I don't want to do that because mortuary affairs, you think you're going to do it for Marines.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't want to see, my brothers, sisters, whoever, dead, anybody. And they're like, no, you're going to do it for the insurgents. And I'm like, you're like, okay, whatever. So my whole unit goes. So we went there in October. The end of October, it was around Halloween, I guess. And we took the potato factory over. And it was an old potato factory. It had big reefers and stuff to house all these dead bodies.
That you were expecting to get.
Yes. So, of course, it sounds all glamorous. And
I don't know if that sounds glamorous.
Because I was like, I'm going to be running with 3-1, all these infantry dudes. And yeah, it wasn't that great because, we were... So the Cloverleaf I'm talking about, the potato factory sat to the south. Less than a mile away from the Cloverleaf. So, we got IDF like a motherfucker, dude.
Mm-hmm.
like we stationed gun trucks. You know, we did all our posts. I mean, it was, you know.
Once you got to the potato factory and you guys had taken it over, how did you guys prep it for the upcoming like battle? Like, how did you set up your security and like what kind of supply? I imagine if you knew, obviously you're going to be doing mortuary affairs, cleaning up dead bodies. I imagine you started seeing shipments of like body bags and stuff like that. So what kind of preparation did you notice for the upcoming fight?
So we got a chief warrant officer. She was a female. I can't remember her name. The actual Mortuary Affairs book is actually in the Marine Corps Museum now, in the Iraq section, where she actually documented all the insurgents we brought in. There's actually like a little tidbit in the Marine Corps Museum about what we did. Mm-hmm. So, we definitely had a lot of shipments of body bags. We had to get briefed on, the hazards. I mean, you're going out to, number one, you're in combat. I mean, because a lot of people think Mortuary Affairs, well, you were 2 streets over. No, dude, like, we were in the house next to the house they were fighting in. I mean, it was, I guess it's combat, but it's really, we didn't get to shoot guns that much, but it was pretty, the hazards of the dead bodies, I guess, back to what I was
wasn't a calm environment.
No,
the whole thing was hectic.
Yeah, so the grunts were going through, and basically they would kill insurgents in a house, and then on the doors they would write 2 DBs, and then we'd go in. But if you know anything about Fallujah, basically the 3-1 and I can't remember all the units. We basically primarily work with 3-1, and they would be like, hey, these houses, they're pretty clear. But at night, when they would stop and they'd set up in a house, the insurgents were moving around the city. So
they were using rat holes and stuff to sneak through the houses and everything.
Yeah, so every house had to be cleared again upon entry. So
for those that aren't aware, like the houses, what they would do is they would take like sledgehammers and stuff and punch holes in the walls. That way they could move in between houses without going through the entryways, but they would go through alleyways and stuff. So you would think that you're coming into a house that you just took fire from and people would be in there. But in reality, they shot at you, pulled back, the Marines started coming in, and then they would move on to the next house to try to keep the fight going because they knew they were fighting for the end of their life. So go ahead. Sorry.
So they dropped those leaflets. I think they started the invasion November 7th, I believe.
Yeah, I think that is right.
Of 2004. So they dropped the leaflets, I think, 2 weeks before. So after what Justin said, they surrounded the city. All that shit's going on. So the whole time they're building, they're fucking preparing. There's bunkers and fucking foxholes everywhere. And they dropped then they had the mass exodus. They dropped the leaflets, then they had a mass exodus of the city. And then I believe it was November 7th, they went in.
Did you take any part of the people of the logistics part of pulling people out of the city that were wanting to leave?
No.
Okay.
No, because we were in training. We had to come up with... So another thing they did was... So there was... In our teams, we went out basically in a platoon size strength. And so I was in 4th platoon. But we went out... I think we split it up. I'm trying to remember all this shit, but... It was almost squad-sized elements. We had a body truck, and then we had a gun truck that we all rode in.
Both of them Humvees, or
no, 7 tons.
Okay.
And so I had in the element of that, you definitely had a guy with a 50 cal, and then on the body truck you had a guy with a 240, and then you had the drivers of those 2 trucks, and then in the back you had a guy with a grappling hook, we figured out, well, I think someone else figured it out before us. They were booby trapping the bodies. So we actually had to put a grappling hook onto the dead body with engineer tape, and you would pull the body, and then you'd take cover, behind a wall or whatever in case there was a grenade or whatever.
Did you ever run into a booby trap body?
No. Not. I don't think anybody in my unit ever did.
Okay.
Because by this time, they were
getting towards the end of their fight.
Yeah. It's pretty bad.
Yeah.
So, and we went in November. We actually went in on the Marine Corps birthday of 2004. It was the first time we entered the city. Which, you go to a city and, Iraqi cities, or even in Afghanistan, the cities we're weird anyways. But you go through there and you would see piles of 40 mics and fucking just aiming, spent casings everywhere, dude.
Yeah.
I'd never seen anything like it. Of course, I'm 20 years old from Indiana. I mean, this is all new.
It was an alien world for you.
So we were the first platoon to go out into the city. My platoon was. And I remember the first time we ever seen a dead body. Of course, we had grunts with us, 3-1. They provided our security. And we went, and they literally were fighting like 4 houses in front of us. And there was a pair of legs. I'll never forget this. A pair of legs and blue sweatpants and fucking running shoes. And that's the first. And I mean, like Saving Private Ryan, we're on the beach.
Yeah.
That's exactly how it was, dude. Like, I just got out of the truck and I'm like, holy fuck. I kind of froze for a second. My staff sergeant was like, we got to go, motherfucker. We got to go. We just fucking went to town, but that was...
So, like, what did you have to do when you, like... So you saw the pair of legs. What happened after that?
So then the grappling hook guys was Ruiz and Yamas.
Was that like a team? Like,
yeah.
Hey, grapple hooks up.
Yeah, and that's what we say. I was
on really?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, and then I was the body bag dude.
Yeah.
And then we had, I mean, to all the lay people, we actually had dudes that ran shovels. I mean, literally you would shovel
and whatever was left.
Whatever was left. And so we got those. And, of course, we get back and, everybody, you just stink to high heaven. Because, I mean, what would you say the average temperature in November in Iraq is?
I don't know. It's
still hot.
Warm. Yeah, it's still warm.
And
for sure.
If they've been in there 3 or 4 days, they've been sitting for 3 or 4 days. That was the first one. And then you get to, I was there till February of 2005. So, I mean, I didn't do Mortuary Affairs that whole time. I actually did the ECP thing that I told you about, the BAT system.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
But, I think the oldest, I mean, we actually picked up skeletons. That's
really?
how long they've been sitting there.
Probably partially from dogs coming out there.
Oh, yeah, the fucking dogs, dude. I mean, when we brought the bodies there to the potato factory, we actually had to shoot dogs because there were so many. I mean, the smell, just alone is just enough to gag a maggot.
Did you guys use any kind of breathing devices to...
So, we used Vicks Vapor Rub, and I won't use it to this day because we would wear, what are those, the little paper masks?
The dust mask?
They're like a dust mask.
Like the 3M dust mask, yeah.
Yeah, and then put Vicks Vapor Rub up in your nose. So, because, you think about a dead deer on the side of the road, when you pass it, it stinks.
Yeah.
And imagine sitting in Iraq, it's nasty.
Yeah.
So, we did that. We used that, and then that was...
So, how long were you on the Mortuary Affairs detail then?
Till Christmas.
So, about a month and a half that's basically all you did was every day?
Yeah, and then we got to go back to Camp Fallujah. We do it for 3 days, and then... We got to go to Camp Fallujah every day because you have to shower.
Yeah.
You have to shower because of the, there's some kind of lice or some shit that goes on dead bodies.
I think you have to worry about, all the different microbes and stuff. That's
a lot of micro stuff. And then, so we got to go back, which was awesome because Camp Fallujah's chow hall was fucking awesome. And when you were doing the guard trucks and stuff, you're on MREs.
Yeah.
So,
So that was the one good thing. You got to shower and eat. So. Man, that's crazy, man. So when you guys got done, well, first off, did they tell you why you were doing that? Like, what was the purpose of it?
So the purpose was to let the people back into the city, eventually.
Yeah.
And being that they don't have modern conveniences like us, they get their water from the Euphrates. They get a lot of people don't know, like when they crap in their house, it's just a hole in the ground.
Yeah.
And it goes out into the city streets. A lot of people don't know that.
It's like old Rome.
Yes.
It's like old Roman times.
Yeah.
Mixed with like cell phones.
Yeah.
It's weird.
Yeah, it's very, very strange. Electricity is very weird. They're just like, of course, that was back when the piano wire thing was going on too, which I don't know. Did you ever?
No, go ahead and explain.
So the piano wire was, they would stick piano wire at turret level. So the guys in the ring mounts, they would get hit with the piano wire, and if you're going fast enough, it actually could decapitate a guy.
Yeah.
So that's when we started putting the engineer stakes up on, welding them onto the ring mounts.
So because people probably don't understand, like when you were on your ring mounts, you guys didn't have the gun mounts with the armor all around it, right?
We had it had 75% coverage.
Okay, so you had the front plates and you had the side plates and stuff like that? Okay.
Yeah.
I thought for some reason you guys weren't using those at that point.
Yeah, we still had those.
Okay.
But then we also had gun trucks in the back of Humvees that had L armor, which had nothing.
Yeah, yeah.
So
in your month and a half of doing that, like how many bodies do you think you guys cleaned up?
I think 600.
Really?
I think 600 was
that
the
was
number.
The entire unit or your platoon?
The entire unit.
600. And all those were insurgents, or were you ever tasked to?
No, we never did any, which they call them angels.
Yeah.
We never did that.
Yeah. That makes sense. The unit's right there probably when they lost their dude, so.
Yeah.
Okay. Man, yeah, I think that's obviously a job I don't think anybody would want to do.
No.
And did you guys have problems with any of your guys because of?
Oh yeah.
Not necessarily like, I know there's obviously going to be like PTSD issues and stuff like that, but were there any guys that were just doing stupid stuff to get out of it? Like, I don't want to do this anymore, so I'm going to do something.
No, I mean, but like, it was all after the fact. I mean, we all lost it at some point because, I mean, you can't do that job every day, say once, for 3 days for once a week. I mean, you can't do that shit. I mean, it psychologically fucks you up because, I mean, that's all year round. Like, you go back to the birthing area, the morgue's right there. I mean, you walk outside, you smell dead bodies.
Yeah.
And then in that, I don't think the Marine Corps was prepared for the turmoil, the traumatic stuff. Because like I maybe me and my buddy Pat, another dude. I think that unit is most of the dudes are 100% disabled with PTSD.
Yeah.
Because I mean, you came back, we lost a dude like instantly to it. Like he went crazy, killed a bunch of his fucking animals and.
Oh really?
Yeah.
After the deployment?
After the deployment.
Oh man.
So I mean, I don't think the Marine Corps was, of course, you do that quiz. I mean, I think everybody goes through that quiz. You've been exposed to loud explosions and all that shit. Yeah. Dead bodies. I mean, we're all like, no, because we all wanted to go back. I mean,
which is, I say it's crazy to hear like when people say that. Like I did when I did that first interview with my buddy that was a corpsman, and he had gotten blown up his third week into his first deployment. Enough to where he got medevaced out and didn't come back. He had actual injuries, and he was just like, "Yeah, I was just trying to get back out there."
Yeah,
and I think it's hard for people to understand. Like, one, you say that you're in probably the worst environment that you can imagine. You know what I'm saying? But then you'd say you'd go back. Not necessarily to that.
No, but
what if they told you were going to have to go back and do that? Would you still want to go back?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Well, because, I mean, it's the camaraderie. It was a shitty situation, but, I mean, you're there, you're spending time with your buddies.
Yeah.
I mean, like, well, I'll just never forget this time. We're sleeping, and they sent a rocket into our thing. And my buddy Lear was in the smoke pit, and, like, the smoke pit was right next to our berthing area. Of course, we're in like a building, like a concrete building. This rocket hits, fucking, he runs in like he's lucky as fuck to be here. But like the first thing, like he woke.
Did it hit like on the smoke pit?
Yeah, it blew the smoke pit completely.
Oh no
apart.
way! Wow, he's lucky. He is lucky.
Yeah. So I mean, like the first thing that you think about, like, he woke me up. He's like, "Hey, Hanthorne, let's go out and have a cigarette." And I'm like,
after the explosion?
No. This is before. Like, he woke me up. He's like, "Hey,
okay.
I'm going out to the smoke pit. You want to come?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'll be out there in a second." So I'm like in my fucking sleeping bag. Then all of a sudden you hear it, and then the fucking windows blow out of your berthing area. And your first instinct is you're like, that I know fucking Lear's out there.
Oh, yeah.
So you run out there, and of course he's back, and it's just...
I mean, your heart probably stopped for a second.
Oh, yeah, because that's your fucking homeboy.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, that's the... Zeus, knock it off.
Yeah. I know what you're saying, but I think it's hard for people that are outside of the military to understand the camaraderie and the brotherhood of... And I say brotherhood, the sisterhood, too, I guess you want to call it that.
Because we had females...
Yeah, you were in a support unit.
Yeah.
I was in a support unit for the first 3 years, and we had females that I had deployed with, too. And there were some good ones and some bad ones. You know, just like there were some good dudes and some bad dudes.
I was very lucky. All three of the females that I was with were fucking total badasses.
That's awesome, man.
Well, because her name was Slingsby. I don't even know her first name. She was actually landing support, and she worked in a slaughterhouse before she came to the Marine Corps.
Okay.
So she was like, none of this shit fazed her. I mean, we go out and you would see fucking dudes chopped up. I mean, you think of, everybody, you know, like Marines that ask me, what's it like? You know, what does it look like? Like, Hollywood does a great representation of what a dead body looks like. I mean, that's...
People think that's fake. Right? It couldn't look like that.
And it's exactly what it looks like.
Yeah.
And you go out there and, you know, the guy been sitting in the sun for fucking 6 days. He's all bloated. Like, and you go to pick him up, your fucking fingers go into their body. That's
rough, dude.
Yeah, I mean, but like, she was a total fucking badass. I mean, Langston was another one. She's a fucking total badass. Didn't bother her. I say there's more fucking dudes like me. I'm a fucking 300-pound guy now, just to give you a representation. She was like 120 pounds. I was like 250 in the Marine Corps. Like, I was like, I'm not fucking doing that. She'd go right in.
Yeah.
I mean, I think females get a bad rap. I mean, like Justin said, there's a lot of good and bad.
Male and female.
Yes.
Yeah, man. So, for the... And obviously, what do you think? What do you think was the biggest like injury you saw on the insurgents that were dead? Was it mostly gunshots that they had been killed from, or?
Yeah, a lot of 5.56.
Because you've described like you saw a pair of legs. That was the first one you saw, and then like dudes that are cut up and stuff like that. So it's just, I think people wonder like, how the hell did someone lose their legs, or how did someone get all chopped up?
Well, I mean, you think if you send a 40 mic into a fucking house, the dude's right there and receives it.
Or a tank round.
Yeah.
You know, you guys were running with tanks out there too, right? Yeah.
Yes. So, I mean, there's a lot of... I actually did see a guy... We actually talked to the track driver, which actually I think was Gunny Paul's unit.
Oh, really? Was he there then? No, he wasn't there.
He was still recruiting.
He was still on the streets.
But... that the guy came out with an RPG like right in front of the track, and they ran him over.
Oh, no way!
Yeah.
They ran him over before he could shoot him.
Yeah, and like
what an idiot!
I know, but I mean, literally, that's when I talked about the shovels earlier. I mean, you're literally shoveling the dude into a bag because I mean,
oh yeah, if they've been, that's like a meat grinder right there.
Yeah.
For those who don't know what an Amtrak is, that's the landing vehicle that Marines will use to come off ship. They float, but they have tank tracks on them, and they will ride in those until they get on the beach, and then it just drives up on the beach. And at that point, it's a troop carrier, and they'll just kick open the back doors, and a squad of grunts will come running out of it to go, fuck shit up. So getting hit by that would not be a good thing.
I don't know how much they fucking weigh, but they weigh a lot.
Oh, many tons. So... All right, so you get to the December time frame, and that's where was the city secured by then? Or were they calling it secured?
Yeah, it was. You still had different,
little pockets of resistance,
pockets,
and stuff,
but that's it.
Overall, they had pushed all the way down to the river.
Yeah,
and they had gone. Okay, so the major combat part of it was over with, and now what did they have you guys do? Well, first off, what did they do with all those bodies? So you said there's 600 bodies, and you're stacking them up in these reefers or refrigerators for those that don't get the term, but in the reefers. In the compound that you were staying in, what did they do with those 600 bodies?
Okay, so the reason why we brought them is because we're looking for HVs. Mm-hmm. I mean, you're looking for guys like...
high-value targets, right?
Yeah. What was that fucking guy's name? They ended up killing him. Zarqawi. They were looking for him, any of his lieutenants, which would be the start of ISIS, actually. But
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what they would come in, and they would we had, I think it was 6 Mortuary Affairs people that their actual MOS is Mortuary Affairs.
Yeah.
And they would fingerprint them, and then we had a database. So I'm sure it was from somebody in the fucking government high up that had that information. They would send those fingerprints to Washington, I'm assuming, and somebody would do all the fingerprint shit and DNA and.
I'm sure you guys also found a lot of identifying documents and stuff on these guys.
Yes, a lot of Syrians. We found a lot of Syrians. Lot of.
Were the majority of the guys you found? Do you think were they Iraqis, or do you think they were foreign fighters?
A lot of foreign fighters.
Yeah,
but I mean, you think when they did the invasion, they called for all the jihadis to come to Iraq, to come to Iraq and fight. So
yeah, and there was actually, for those that don't know, it was actually a. When that happened, before the invasion, and they called for the jihad, like he was saying, and they were calling for the jihad for people to come there to fight, they were actually stamping their passports, like reason for visit. You go to somewhere and be like, oh, vacation, I'm going to go wherever. It was jihad.
Yeah.
And they were like, stamp, jihad, all right, welcome to Iraq, get ready, here's your AK, or whatever.
Yeah, so a lot of foreign fighters. But then, so we got done. They called the city good. It's around Christmas. No. It was before Christmas. It had to be the beginning of December because I was at the ECP during Christmas. But we had to bury him. So we had the engineers brought a big ass,
the bulldozer, the D5 or D7.
No, I did see a D. What's the big one? D12,
I don't even
D8. Know. Big up armor run.
They use those in the city to tear down buildings, right? Where they were taking contact from them.
Yeah, so I did see that. They're all up armored. That was pretty cool. But they brought like a excavator. That's what I was trying to think of. And they dug, because I think Muslims have to be buried to the east. So they watched this. It was they were buried to whatever their cultural standards were.
That's cool.
So
which is crazy. I mean, It's not crazy, but it's like, so people were like, hold on, wait, you go in to clean up the dead bad guys, and then you bury them for their specific, religious style, like you do what they're supposed. And I can't imagine many other countries doing that for people. I mean, it's pretty wild.
Yeah,
but that's cool that you guys did it, and that you're a firsthand account that it happened and actually took place. So
even though, like, when we're in the ECP, we would do patrols and we would go by the graveyard where we buried them, and those Iraqis right there digging them up.
Really?
Yeah.
What for?
Because I'm assuming it's, like family.
Yeah, but did they know where to...
No. Because, it wasn't like we knew this was...
Was it a mass grave or was it individual graves?
Mass grave.
That's crazy, man.
But everything was done to their customs. I think it's that they have to face to the west or something like that. Their heads have to face to the west. Like, we did everything...
It's probably towar's Mecca. It's probably where they're supposed to face.
Towards Mecca.
Yeah, okay.
So we did everything to the religious.
So once the Mortuary Affairs role was kind of winding down, you guys had, completed your kind of mission in the city, and you had disposed of the bodies. They'd been buried. What was next? Like, did they trim down? Like, hey, we only need 2 platoons now. The rest of you can go back to your old job, or what was kind of the breakdown of the unit as it?
If I remember right. They asked for volunteers again, and me and Strip and a couple other dudes that did whatever the double deployment's called, where they extend.
Oh, where they extended? They crossed over and stayed with their...
So we had 2 dudes from Alpha Company extended with us, and they went, we all 4 went to my staff sergeant again, said that we would go back and stay in the city and do the BAT system, which is... where they get IDs, with their names, and I think I had their address and shit.
There's a couple different versions of that. I used one of the newer ones, and it was called the Seek. But what Bats and Hides and Seek that you'll hear is when what we do is we'll set up either a SNAP ECP or a vehicle checkpoint, or like what Michael is going to explain here in a minute what he did, but. You'll set up, and then these people will come up, and you have this. It's bigger than a tablet. It's almost like it almost reminds me of one of those old tape players.
Yeah.
That like an old answering machine kind of tape player like size, like thick and kind of long. So anyway, it's like that, but it would take people's fingerprints, and then you would also, I don't know if yours did, but ours would scan their retinas, and then that would go into a database. And when it happened, you would have the database already loaded into the system, so it would tell you right then if they were hit positive on their fingerprint or their retina scan. And then if they didn't hit, it would just be stored into the database for later on in case they did commit a crime. We'd have their information. Yeah. So it's basically the same thing.
Same
right?
thing, yeah.
Okay.
But they had like little ID cards, so we went to the
City Secure.
City Secure.
And now you guys volunteered to come back and help set up the ECP. So what did that entail?
So the ECP was already set up. They had it, once they got to certain locations, they set up little fobs, basically, for the grunts to stay at. Well, then they're like, well, we can use these for entry control points back into the city. So basically, we got some training. We actually were with a reserve Marine unit and 3-1. I'm going to go get one.
Yeah, we'll just pause. All right. So we're back. So, all right. So for the ECP.
Yeah.
So you guys went back to establish the ECP and then go on from there?
All right. So we went, this is early December, maybe mid-December. We got to the ECP, which is on, I can't remember the MSR, but so the Green Bridge that they hung the contractors on, it was to the west of that. It was a big 4-lane concrete bridge.
Okay.
So we did that. We were 3-1.
What did that entail? Like, what did you guys actually do to limit the traffic of people coming in and make sure that only people that came in were screened?
Okay. So that there was only in the mornings they could leave as long as they had the badge, the bat badge or whatever the fuck they call it.
Meaning that they had been scanned.
They had been scanned. So they'd show that and then they could leave. And then in the evening, you could only come in the city.
Okay.
So, and then if you didn't have a badge, they'd send you to us, and we'd be in like a little hooch, and we'd do all the bat system stuff.
So you just go through and make sure that, hey, they're not going to pop on any of the things for being a known terrorist.
Yeah,
or
like
bomb makers or whatever.
Military-age males, they had a that dye that checks for gunpowder.
Yeah.
We did that, and then...
did you ever find anybody catching?
Yeah.
So if you checked that and they popped positive for residue, what happened?
They were instantly arrested, and then they were transported to wherever for questioning.
One of the detainment facilities.
Yes.
So you guys basically detain them and turn them over to like the MPs or something like that? Okay.
They go back to Camp Fallujah, and then from where I don't know where they would go. Okay.
But
they did. It was basically, I mean, you're dealing with people. They don't speak you don't speak English. I didn't speak Arabic. It was they were rowdy. They were pissed off because they came back to the city and it was fucking destroyed. And then they come back out in the morning. They'd be mad as fuck because they go back to their house and there's nothing left or insurgents had knocked holes in the walls and they want money and that's when I learned that the whole country of Iraq must be on Valium. Because those dudes that's all they ask for.
I've heard that before. Is that Valium is like super big out there,
and any kind of porno, and they love Michael Jackson. I don't know, but
it's kind of weird combo.
Yeah, weird combo.
We get hopped up on Valium, listen to some Michael Jackson while I watch some Western porn. Have you ever seen Generation Kill?
Yeah.
It's funny in that too. I think when they get into the city, it shows them where the guy's like, Valium, I need Valium. It even shows them in there. That was definitely a common theme for guys. Just like, oh, my back hurts, I need Valium. Oh, my shoulder hurts, I need Valium.
Lots of Valium, of course.
So how long were you on the ECP then?
From, I'd say, early December till February.
Did you guys ever get attacked at the ECP?
We returned fire on the guys that were by the hospital.
Okay.
We didn't get attacked. We seen them trying to sneak in the city through the Green Bridge.
Oh, okay.
So
gotcha.
Of course, it's silhouettes. It's dark. Of course, I'll tell you, like, when we were in Fallujah, the fucking ROE was, everything's declared hot. There was everything dies. If you're not American, you die, basically. And then
during the actual clear, you're not.
Yeah. And then now it's, you have to have positive ID, and you have to call up to the fucking chain of command, and the guy has to say, "Oh, okay, yeah," pop a white star and all this bullshit, and make sure it's not friendlies, and which
it's hard to be like, okay, why would you be sneaking in at night if
exactly.
you're not a bad guy?
I mean, you have to call up to the fucking COC and be like, "Hey, we got movement out here of 8 guys, and we cleared," and then they're like, "Oh, make sure you pop, let me check to see if it's a friendly unit." And I'm like, if it's a friendly unit, they'd come through the front gate.
Yeah,
I mean,
they're not sneaking. They're not sneaking around.
Plus, they'd been like, "Oh yeah, it's a fucking but you know what I'm saying."
Yeah. So, all right, was that kind of the end of the? Did you hang out on the ECP until basically the end of your deployment?
Yeah.
At what point did you come back to the rest of your unit that didn't go to Fallujah? Or had left already, had left previously?
So they left in, say, the end of November, beginning of December, I don't know. Somewhere around that time. We got back February. We left 2 weeks later to come home.
Okay.
Like the beginning of March.
Do you think, compared, because you probably would have, had you not volunteered to go do the ECP duty, you probably would have went back to just running convoys like you had been before, right?
And actually, they got a major break. They were down for like a month.
Oh, really?
When they got back.
Just a recovery, decompression kind of period?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I mean, it was good. Like, on the ECP, we didn't get to get showers. We shit in wag bags. I mean.
Yeah.
I mean, it was.
The good life.
Yeah, the good life.
It's rough living out there sometimes.
I mean, baby wipes for a month and a half before a shower. I mean, which is good. I mean, I think it all builds character.
It's a different life, man. It's something. The people that don't know, it's just something that you get used to. It's just, I mean, what else are you going to do?
Yeah.
You're going to shit in the bag.
Yeah.
Because if not, what else are you going to do?
Yeah.
That's like the most sanitary thing you could do. Yeah. So you came back from that deployment, knowing that you guys obviously had a pretty psychologically tough job. Mm-hmm. Did they set up any kind of special recovery or anything like that when you guys came back? Any kind of special therapy or anything?
After that one dude, I'm not going to say his name, went crazy, they kind of came and talked to us. But, I mean, like I said, I don't think the Marine Corps was expecting the impact that really had. Because, I'd say more than half have been admin sept for issues.
Yeah.
Like, they could never deploy again. They could never go to the rifle range again. I mean, and me, I come back, and, of course, you know me personally.
Yeah.
Like, I was a huge drinker. I partied. I got in trouble.
Yeah.
And then I was like, I'm going straight back. Because why not? So that's when I went with Bravo. That's when I went. They changed the units around. It was like CLB 6. I was in 1st Platoon. I can't remember my company name.
So you came back and you were still with Bravo Company. Yeah. And then when you came, so what it looked like when you came back? You came back, you got post-deployment leave right when you came back. And then did you guys have anything after that, or was it?
No. Like, we came back, and then, of course, they were like, well, you need to go to the rifle range, and,
all the annual
typical training. Yeah. And I'm like, I'm not doing all that shit. PFTs and fucking yada, yada, yada. And I can't remember. It was CLB 6, I know that, but I don't remember the unit name. 1st Platoon. Staff Sergeant Augustus, I knew him from being in the Marine Corps, in that 2nd TSB. He was a really good NCO, had a really good lieutenant. So they're like, we're ready to go back, but we're not going to Fallujah. We're going to go to Al-Assad. So I was like, fuck, I'm going to jump ship now and go do workups. Mm-hmm. Because, workups are pretty fun. I mean, if you like going to the field, you like that kind of shit. I mean, I never mind going to the field. Like, a lot of guys dreaded it. I like being in the field because there's no bullshit. You're not fucking... Of course, unless, grunts, they sit around and clean their weapons. Well, when Motor T has nothing to do, you're not on the road, they fucking make you line up trucks, and the motor pool is fucking terrible, dude. I fucking hated that.
You just play games.
Games, because they don't have nothing for you to do.
Yeah.
So
you're just standing by until somebody needs you to drive something somewhere.
Exactly. So I didn't want to do that. So I did the workups for.
Who did you attach to for your second deployment then?
CLB 6. I'm bad. I can't remember. It's been so long. It's terrible.
Just CLB 6 though. What year was this?
05. So I had 6 months between deployments.
Oh, okay. So from the time you came home to the time you punched back
6
out again,
months.
was it 6 months?
Yeah.
Wow.
So,
I don't even realize it was that short between.
Yeah.
And then, so and you headed to Al Asad for your second deployment? That's a nice place to.
Yeah, it was
land.
very different.
What?
Very different deployment between that one and Fallujah.
What'd you think about Al Asad compared to TQ?
Well, nice chow hall.
Which one?
I mean, yeah, which one?
Like
they
5.
had fucking Subway and all kinds of bullshit, which a bunch of dudes spent a bunch of money on.
There was definitely more opportunities to blow money at Al
Yes.
Asad than there was at TQ.
They're like, hey, we're going to go to Subway. I'm like, dude, we have a fucking badass chow hall right there. Why would you go?
Good ass food, too.
Yeah.
They make real good food at those
They have ice creams and fucking all kinds of shit.
Baskin Robbins.
Yeah. I mean, like, what the fuck? Why would you go spend money on Subway when you're going to go eat all you can eat at the chow hall?
I still go get a macadamia nut ice cream every once in a while. And,
Just for old time's sake?
Just for old time's sake. Baskin Robbins.
But no, yeah, very different deployments. I was definitely more Motor T focused on my second one. We did do some operations. Had a lot of guys. I'd say probably 8 dudes get hit by IEDs that deployment.
Do you think the IED threat was higher on your second deployment than your first deployment?
Yes, because they definitely had the art was better. They knew what the fuck they were doing.
Yeah.
They knew that a 7-ton could only run 60 miles an hour, and LVS could only run 55 miles an hour loaded. So, I mean, the windows where they would get blown up, and they were bigger.
Yeah.
That was when they started putting propane tanks with packed full of plastic explosives.
Okay.
And it wasn't so much the explosion that killed you, it was the concussion would stop your heart.
What about... So, obviously, you started seeing more complex, more effective IEDs.
Pressure plate IEDs were big.
Yeah. Which is kind of crazy because most of Iraq is paved.
Yes.
But they would come out, and this is something that I got briefed on, which is pretty wild. They were talking about they had found a sedan that had a hole cut in the trunk, and there'd be a guy that would ride in the trunk, and they would stop somewhere, and he'd be in the trunk with a torch, and he would heat up the asphalt.
Yeah.
And they would just think that there was a car parked there, and he's actually in the trunk heating the asphalt up to soften it, dig it up, and place an IED, and then cover it back up, and then they would just drive off like nothing happened. And I was just like, that's crazy.
Yeah. That's the insurgency, though.
Yeah.
And, I mean, if you look at it from a guy like, as Americans, if someone invaded America, I mean, this is all taking me years to figure out, but would you not do the same thing?
Yeah.
I mean, I can't be mad. Everybody's like, oh, you're mad at Iraqis or whatever. No, dude. I mean, they were just doing what they thought was right.
Some of them.
Yeah, some of them. But
there are a lot of foreign fighters.
Yes, and I mean, but you have to look at it the big picture. Like, you come back and...
After a while, it became less like... I think... Okay, so on that, I think what happened was we went in to change a regime.
Yeah.
And we were hoping that we would change a regime, the people would rise up, and they would take over their country, and a good democracy would ensue.
Yeah.
However, when we went to Iraq, the minority was in power, and they were in power through fear and stuff that Saddam had put out. And now that minority was no longer in charge, and the oppressed majority were kind of taking out their, they were pissed. They've been pissed because they've been getting pushed around for the last however many years Saddam was, since like the 70s or 80s.
Yeah.
That Saddam had been running the place. So I kind of see what you're saying, but at the same time, it's so complex.
It is complex.
But you're right. If someone came here to invade the United States, the politics of it all, it wouldn't matter to me. I'd still be like, fuck them.
Yeah.
It'd be like Red Dawn,
Yeah,
Let's go to the mountains.
Yeah.
And let's see what we're going to do now.
And that's exactly what people always ask. I mean, I'm sure you've got a lot of questions too. I mean, what, did you kill anybody? You get all those stupid questions. And do you hate Iraqis? And I'm like, In some of them, yeah. I mean, do I want to sit in a room with a bunch of Iraqis? Fuck no. But do I see their point of why they created the insurgency? And I said yes, because foreign invaders came. I mean, I get it.
I think people that can't see both sides
exactly
are the people that won't ever like fully understand a war. You know what I'm saying? And I think that was part of our problem too, because we didn't plan properly for that minority that was a majority to now be super pissed that they're the oppressed minority and that their opinion doesn't matter as much. And we weren't really prepared for the insurgency. We whipped through the country quickly.
Yeah.
It was like a month for the invasion, maybe at most. So the invasion was easy. It was our political leaders and shit didn't have the right plan for the follow on and what we were going to do after that.
Exactly.
And the other thing is that because of the way Saddam ruled, there was a lot of issues in the country already. There was a lot of like infrastructure issues and stuff like that.
Definitely.
And now they're like, well, the Americans just came over and took over, so hey, fix our shit.
Yeah.
You know, which again, you tell Lance Corporal Smith, 0311, hey man, fix my water plant. Like my electricity keeps going out every day. Whatever. Like they're not prepared to do that.
No.
And that was definitely a big driver for the insurgency and stuff. So, and a thing I noticed, go back to what we were talking about before with the IEDs and stuff, is in Afghanistan, those that went to Afghanistan know Afghanistan is all HME. It's all homemade explosives. It's all yellow jugs packed with homemade explosives, and it's real hit and miss. A 20-pound IED could destroy a vehicle, or it could just catch on fire and do nothing, like just scare the shit out of you. And I've seen both. And so it all depends on the bomb maker and stuff like that. Whereas Iraq actually had a good stockpile of military grade weapons and stuff. And, different, they had a larger, I don't know, they had more stuff that they could just make IEDs out of. And they were using like 155 round.
Oh yeah.
Like the
daisy chains.
Yeah. What they would do is take like, artillery canisters. So when we shoot aluminum rounds, those things fly through the air. They're just like a normal artillery round, but then it base ejects an illumination round, and the canister continues on. So now you got this big steel artillery round that has no guts in it, and they would just turn around and pack that full of C4 or something like that because that's available there. Strap them and daisy chain them, like you said. I remember seeing videos or pictures of the daisy chained IEDs on the back of like guardrails. It'd be like a 100-yard strip of guardrails, and there'd be like 6 155 rounds strapped to it, ready to blow up, try to hit an entire
I think
convoy.
the biggest we ever seen was 28.
28 in one chain?
Yeah, one chain.
That's insane. Jesus.
That was in 04. Well, Fallujah time.
Really? That was in the city?
That was actually on the MSR.
Okay.
So
how did you guys identify that?
Luckily, we had some badass MPs. Badass guys were running out in front of us with the EOD that spotted it.
Yeah.
They thought it was one, and then
28
kept pulling. I mean, we were stopped on the MSR for like 8 hours while they did a controlled dead.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Was it 28 155 rounds, like the artillery rounds? Was
that
was the biggest? That was the biggest IED set you saw?
Yeah.
No, I can't imagine that. I never heard of one that big.
Yeah, it was fucking huge. It might have been less than 28, but I thought it was 28.
So on your second deployment, you actually hit an IED, correct?
It hit the back of my truck.
Okay. So you want to talk about that? No. Okay, that's cool.
Talk about that.
No worries, man. So, how did you feel about your second deployment compared to your first deployment?
It was cake.
Yeah.
Because, number one, we were at Al-Assad most of the time. Al-Qaim was a lot of the time, which is another badass bases. I mean, I got to go to the gym almost every day. I mean, it was just like driving. That's all we did was drive.
Drive, come home, eat, and lift.
Eat and lift.
Yeah.
It was really a cake deployment.
Just for those that are listening, when Michael said that he weighed 250 pounds in the Marine Corps, I know people thought of some fat Motor T dude, but you were jacked.
Yeah.
You were a big dude.
Yeah.
I know for a little while you were starting to get into the world's strongest man kind of training. Yeah. Lifting up those, what do they call those stones? Atlas stones and stones like that. Yeah, so you weren't 250 pounds of bullshit.
I wasn't a fat Motor T.
And the best thing is like deployments are the best time to get in shape because you're starving most of the time and you have time to lift weights all the time.
And MREs.
Yeah.
MREs are good calories.
So,
but no, it was very cool. Definitely with a good group of dudes. We had great MPs. I mean, to get hit with an IED was pretty rare. And I mean, it was more like shrapnel.
Yeah.
I mean, if you hit, on a Humvee, a 1155 would do a lot of damage, which we had a couple guys. But I'll backtrack. So I said I was in L armor this time. This time we were in up armored everything.
Yeah.
Everything had fucking armor.
Thick glass, thick doors.
Air conditioning.
Yeah, you had to run AC in those. You'd be dying on the inside.
Yeah, but I mean, so the whole, you talk about 6 months and how the changes that the Marine Corps and the DOD came with was insane, dude.
The quickness that they brought the supplies that people were wanting out there.
Yeah, it was just really cool to see, It was very rare that you ever had it, I mean, when we got to Alisal, they were still L armor, but they were all, you weren't driving that.
Those were for like driving around base to
exactly.
Get shit. Yeah.
And then those would go to a shop. They had like the mechanics.
Yeah.
We had a whole unit of mechanics just putting up armor on vehicles.
Yeah.
I mean, which is cool.
Yeah. Well, it sucks for the mechanic.
Yeah, it sucks for them. But it was cool for us because you go from running L armor to fucking up armor.
You probably
with
felt
AC.
like, what can they do to me now?
Yeah, it was definitely cool to see. But we had a few guys get hit really good with. Tippins was one of them. He got hit with I think it was 6 155s. He actually got ejected from the truck.
What was he in?
LVS.
Okay.
And it hit right on the first drive tires. So right under the cab, but all that up armor. I mean, he got ejected from the truck.
Was he a gunner? Or?
No. He was the driver.
Wow.
The concussion blew the doors open and ejected him.
That's crazy.
And he was fine.
LVS stands for Logistics Vehicle System also, for those. And now we've transitioned, the Marine Corps uses the LVS-R, which is the Logistics Vehicle System Replacement, which is similar. It's almost like the HET vehicle that the Army had. Where it doesn't sway like the front, because those were weird. They had that bob, what do they call it? Not bobtail. That's a bike. You know what I'm saying? It's just a cab, and it had the long trailer. And if you were in just a cab, if you didn't have the lockouts in, you could roll that thing forward real easy and end up on your sitting on your windshield.
Engine.
Yeah, I can imagine getting blown up. I'd say the best thing to get blown up in at that time would probably be a 7-ton. You're right.
Yeah, because
high up off the ground.
Off the ground, and then with the up armored ones, they had all the slanted armor.
Yeah, they started putting those V holes in them.
Yeah, the fucking blast would go above you.
So he wasn't in that though. So he got hit by, you said 6 155 rounds and then ejected from his vehicle.
And other than having like a mild concussion, he walked away from it.
Wow, that's awesome.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
So and then we had a guy. It's not funny, but it is funny because he got. They buried us 155 too far. We're going to Al-Qaim, which there's this little fucking town. These fucking kids are little pains in the asses. They'd throw rocks and shit.
Yeah. They think it's funny.
Yeah. They, So, we had slingshots for them.
We started carrying those in Afghanistan.
Yeah, to pelt them with the Jolly Ranchers that all you fine Americans sent us. I don't know why Jolly Ranchers, but we had shitloads of those motherfuckers. But they buried it too deep, and the 7-ton was carrying a trailer with a backhoe on it. And so I was in an LVS. I always ran LVSs. That was my group. I was a senior lance at this time. And
the senior lance corporal.
I ran the heavy haulers, which we did all the 870s.
Okay.
We held Amtraks, all the dozers. We did all the big stuff.
The 870s are the big trailers that you could. It's like a low boy trailer that you could put a tank on if you wanted.
So I had a really good group of guys. I was in charge of that. We as a Lance Corporal, you're not really in charge of too much, but we ran that. And so I was behind this 7-ton with this backhoe, and they fucking buried this IED too deep. So you've seen the video of that Humvee where the fucking road blows up.
Yeah.
And it just kind of rolls over. Mm-hmm. That's the same fucking thing, dude. This fucking backhoe goes over, and then you see the whole ground just
like bubble up.
in the fucking backhoe.
Jeez.
It falls over. And I'm laughing because it's funny and no one got hurt. But I just, the shit that you find comical.
Yeah.
Like in combat, I mean, or in a war zone is.
You just laugh and you're like, nerds. Didn't get me this time.
Yeah. But I mean, that was the biggest threat. I mean, I don't think we ever took small arms fire.
Really?
Ever. The second deployment.
And you were still in the same area? You were coming out of Al Assad. What areas were you running most? Al Qaim and where else?
Korean Village, which is up by the Syrian border. AQ. We did Operation Steel Curtain up there, but shit wasn't really shit. We did, a little bit of surge ops, MREs, water, ammo. Nothing like Fallujah. I mean,
I don't think anything can compare to that. Once you've gone through that, everything else is cake.
I mean, I've never hauled so much Willie Pete in my life, dude. I mean, and that's something to be scared to haul.
For Arties?
Yes.
For Artie guys?
I mean, I bet I took fucking hundreds of thousands of fucking rounds of Willie Pete up there.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
Willie Pete's, it's cool.
Yeah, it's real cool.
Unless you're on the other end of it.
On the other end of it.
Yeah, it's scary as fuck. Then.
But, yeah, we did some surge ops. Volunteered to do that because, I mean, I never really liked the Marine Corps structure for Motor T. Yeah. I hated it, to be honest. I was a bad garrison Marine.
Yeah.
And I'm just being honest because I like to drink and I like to fight, and it doesn't go good well when you're sitting in there. And I didn't like, I had PTSD when I came back from the first deployment. I didn't.
Had it been documented at that time?
No. But I knew it, but I wouldn't do it because they wouldn't let you go.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well,
there's a lot of guys that do that, I think.
Yeah, because I mean, if your buddy's going, I mean,
yeah,
that's hard for people to fathom.
It's hard to watch your buddy go on a deployment.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, see someone else leave that.
I'm sure it was terrible for you when you after 12 years or, and you're like, oh, my unit's going to deploy. After 12 years. Yeah. How many deployments did you do?
5.
5 deployments. I mean, and you would go back for 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 if you could be with the same dudes?
Yeah, I would have went back.
Exactly.
I'd go back to Afghanistan.
Exactly.
I don't know if I'd go back to Iraq.
I mean, I did volunteer a couple times to go to Afghanistan, never got to go.
Yeah, so with that, you were in, the Afghan war was going on, but the focus was really on Iraq at that time. So what year did you get out again? You got out in 2007, right? Okay, yeah. So that's about the time I think that we started putting a little bit more focus on Afghanistan. I don't think the surge happened until 2010, I believe, is when Obama had a surge into Afghanistan. Yeah. But we were starting to up stuff a little bit because I caught the tail end of Iraq in 2009, and I know the guys that replaced us were there for like a month, and then they turned around and sent them straight to Afghanistan. So they came to Iraq on their deployment, were there for a month, and then got on planes and flew to Afghanistan. So that's kind of wild. But you came back. When did you come back from your second deployment then?
Let's see. April of 2006.
April of 2006, and you didn't deploy between the 2006. Obviously, you didn't deploy between 2006 and you getting out
in December of 2006.
What made you decide to get out? What was like I'm kind of done with this?
I got in trouble. I got the DUI on base.
Okay. And that was, when was that? That was about 6 months before you got out?
Yeah, but I was slated to pick up corporal.
Okay.
And then I got in trouble and I was like, I'm done. The Marine Corps is awesome. I fucking love it, but I hated all the bullshit.
Yeah.
The Marine Corps in garrison is a lot of bullshit.
Yeah.
And, that's why I always volunteered to go and do things because you join the Marine Corps to do shit, not sit on base and line up trucks. And of course I was Motor T, and I'm sure every MOS has their bullshit.
Yeah.
But, my goal was to re-enlist and go into infantry.
Okay.
I was planning on re-enlisting.
Okay.
And then I got in trouble, and I was like, I'm not going to a grunt unit as a Lance Corporal, a 4-year Lance Corporal.
Which actually wouldn't really be that uncommon there.
No, it wouldn't be uncommon, but I mean, it's just...
The funny thing is when I was doing my lat move, I was actually looking at the infantry because I wanted to, like you, I wanted to come in as an assaultman. That's the job I was looking at. And I got to the point to my re-enlist and I could lat move. And I'm like, man, I'm a corporal, probably not too far away from sergeant. I was like, how the hell am I going to lat move into infantry? Not knowing anything, and try to tell some like lance corporal or corporal that has probably done at least one, maybe even two deployments to Iraq at that point, how they should be doing their job, or how. So for me, it was kind of like I didn't know if I could do it, if I could step in and be respected as a leader and stuff. So I kind of had the opposite. Like you didn't want to do it because you didn't want to be there as a 4-year lance corporal. I didn't want to do it because I felt I was too senior. Like I've been beyond that point of where, because I don't know what the bullshit that the PFC and the Lance Corporal 03 XX has to deal with. So I would never be able to understand that. So I didn't think I would get the respect that I would need, and I just didn't think I was going to be as effective as I wanted to be, which is why I kind of went to go be a forward observer and a JTAC, which although not infantry, I get to support them and work with them a lot, and still get to do a lot of cool shit. So. Yeah. But I understand the hesitation. So you pulled the trigger. You're like, you know what? I'm in trouble. I got a DUI. You want to talk about your DUI? What you did? What kind of car did you get a DUI in?
A '91 Toyota Supra.
Fuck yeah!
It was a sweet car. I actually bought it off a chief warrant officer in June. He'd done a bunch of work to it. Had I don't remember the turbo. It was a Garrett something.
Yeah. Oh, it had aftermarket turbos.
Oh yeah.
Nice.
It was a fast car. So we had my buddy lived outside the back gate of Lejeune. What was that? Not
Sneed's Ferry?
Sneed's Ferry.
Okay.
And he had a house party. This is like maybe 3-4 weeks after we got back. I came back off leave. He called me and said, we're having a party. So we went out there drinking, good time. Stayed at his house that night. Next morning I get up. I'm like, I'm going to go to base. We're going to Surf City. Go to the beach for the afternoon or whatever. So I'm fucking hauling ass on the back roads at Camp Lejeune. Roads that I've drove a million times and never seen an MP. So I'm like, I'm going to open this fucking car up, see what it can do.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. After OP5 where it splits into that wide, you can take, what do they call that, Marine Road or something like that?
So I'm fucking hauling ass. And I come around this corner and there's an MP. I start braking. He got me 93 and a 55. Which was kind of shitty.
Yeah, it sucks.
So I got the DUI, and then I was like, fuck it, I'm getting out.
Yeah.
So then I got moved to a unit that was nothing but my master sergeant on up. Everybody was getting out. They're all retiring or getting out, so it was a pretty cake unit.
Yeah. So after you got out of the military, what did you do?
I didn't work for the first 6 months. I had a bunch of money saved up. Just partied, a lot of partying, a lot of drugs, alcohol.
I feel like that's a typical story for a 22-year-old coming out of the military.
Yeah, a lot of drugs, though.
Dudes are trying to make up for the stuff that they watched their buddies back home do.
Exactly.
While you were,
but the good thing is I hung out with Mario,
Yeah.
At his house. He lived on campus, going out to the bars, having fun. After he left for Nashville, which I should have, we were supposed to move originally together, and then I ended up staying here, got back together with Jesse, and it's kind of been history. I mean,
now you're just living life, man.
Yeah, but I mean, like, it's been hard, definitely hard every day.
It's stuff you got to deal with.
You have demons, but I mean, you can't let them get the best of you.
So, what kind of advice? And first out for people that don't know you, you're doing well now. Like you've got a good job, you've got a good place, you've got family around you and stuff like that. And I think, I come see you every time I come up here and we hang out and stuff like that. So I think you're doing well and that's good. So I don't want people to think that, you got out and like you're not doing well.
No,
so I just want to make that clear that you are doing well. So what kind of advice would you give a 4-year Marine getting out now, especially one that may have gone to combat, may have seen something, and he's stepping away from the military, stepping away from that safety net, because that's what it is. and he's coming back out to the real world. What would you say?
It's tough, but I mean, everything's doable. You got to think everything that you did in the military is way harder than you're going to ever do in the civilian world. I mean, whatever you did on deployments, what in the field, whatever you've seen done, is nothing going to be that hard in the civilian world. So, I mean, you come out here, you got to, and I always, you say the drugs and alcohol, they're just a mask. You mask your emotions and how you're feeling, because alcohol makes you feel good, drugs make you feel good. But don't use that, because your PTSD, you can feed off that and use that as a positive energy to do great things. There's a lot of guys that have been in the military now that are millionaires. Mm-hmm. I know a guy right now I was in with both deployments. He lives in China and owns multiple hotels, and he's a multi-millionaire.
That's awesome. And
it's doable.
Yeah.
And he has PTSD. He has all the same shit. He did all the same shit I did, but you can do that. But don't come out and think PTSD is a bad thing. I mean, it's bad, but don't let it control your life. Mm-hmm. Because there's life's awesome, dude. It's whatever you make of it. I mean, you can go travel the world. You can do anything you want to do, because nothing's harder than your deployments. And as an 18-year-old, 19-year-old, you come out, you go see, I mean, how many 18, 19-year-old kids at Purdue right now had to write their own will? Yeah. I mean, you think about that logically, you're way...
Not only write their own will, but write their own will with the real possibility that...
of death.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's you just have to come out and be positive. And it's so hard, and I see so many dudes, they struggle with whatever they've done, but ask for help. If you really need help, your brothers will be there. I guarantee you that. Mm-hmm. Even if you don't talk to them every week or every year, they will be there no matter what. And just ask for help. I mean, that's the biggest thing, the 22 a day and all that shit. Like, there should be zero, because there's a network out there. You just have to reach out. It's not like when you were in the Marine Corps and the wizard, filling that piece of paper I talked about earlier. Yeah. You need to come out and you need to ask for help, whether that's at the VA. And I know the VA gets a bad rap, but they have shit to help you. And if you feel like you're going to kill yourself or kill somebody, go get help, dude. Because prison's not worth it and death's not worth it. After all that shit you did, life is way better. I mean,
that's just one portion of your life. That wasn't your entire life.
Yeah, and I feel like a lot of dudes, they drink all the time, or they fucking do cocaine or hard drugs. Like, marijuana's great. I'm an advocate for marijuana for PTSD, because
a lot of people are.
I think that's the right way to do it. The VA will give you some good shit. I mean, I was on it for a long time, and then I finally decided one day I'm done. I'm done being a slave to something.
Yeah. Were you on a bunch of medications?
Yeah, I was on 3 of them, and it's not good, dude. Like, I don't want to put a man-made drug into my body for the rest of my life. Yeah. You can ask my wife, was it terrible when I came off the medication? Fuck yeah. Like, I thought we were going to get divorced. Mm-hmm. Because whatever those drugs suppressed came back out, because I didn't have to manage it. Yeah. I managed it with alcohol for a long time and drugs. Then I went to the VA and then managed it with that. And then you come off, you have nothing. Like, I barely
Now
drink.
You're forced to face it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you're not masking it anymore.
Yeah. And is it hard when your fucking boss comes up to you that never's done shit in his life, fucking rips your ass? Yeah, I want to rip his fucking throat out, but what do? You take it and you fucking learn from it. That's the biggest thing that irritates me. I mean, I have compassion for the 22 a day thing, but I don't think there should be any. Yeah. Because we have too many brothers and sisters out there that would do anything for you, and we have a system in place right now. The VA, I know it's backlogged, and the VA gets
some places are better than others.
Yes, but just go get help.
How's your personal dealing with the VA been?
That was terrible. I don't even use them anymore.
Oh, really?
But I've found, I can't say it, but I've found things that work for me.
Okay.
Because I have a job, and this is not.
Yeah.
But it's just you'll find it. I mean, whether you have kids, like I don't have any kids. Like I think kids are a big stressor. A lot of guys get out, and then a lot of married dudes, they get out and they find out that I've been deployed for 3 times in 4 years, and my wife hates me.
Yeah.
Deep down, there's so much resentment or whatever, and
the being away actually kept them together.
Exactly.
Because they weren't there hating each other the entire time.
And I think a lot of dudes, they go through that shit, or they have the pressures of getting out and getting a job because, I mean, you're not getting BAH anymore. You're not getting all the helps of the military and jobs. Jobs is the biggest thing that I'll tell you. I've never been turned down for a job with the Marine Corps after I've been out of the Marine Corps. Ever. Every job I've ever applied for, I've gotten.
That's awesome, man.
But you know why? Because you're military. It's not like back in the 60s when you got out of the Vietnam War. They're like, oh, this dude's a fucking baby killer. No, fucking people want to hire military people.
I would say that's yes in some industries and no in some others.
I'm in manufacturing, so
you're in manufacturing, and I think you also were from Indiana. You know, we're from the Midwest, which I think there's a little bit more pro-military stance in these areas. I think the biggest thing that drives people away from hiring military is anytime that someone, let's say I go out and commit a crime right now, a heinous crime if you want to call it. Let's say I go murder somebody. Yeah. The headline is going to be
Marine.
Justin Kramer, former Marine. Yeah. Blah, 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 blah. And then they're going to be like, oh shit, he also did 5 deployments. It had to be PTSD. And I would say that my own interactions with people in college, now that I'm a full-time student, is that a lot of them think that every military member has been in combat and that every military member has PTSD and that every military member could snap at any time.
Yeah.
And that's an unfortunate
stigma.
That's an unfortunate stigma that we have to deal with, and it's more pronounced because people use PTSD as an excuse anytime they get in trouble. You know what I'm saying? Someone does something wrong, and they're like, well, it must be my PTSD. That's what they use as defense and stuff like that. And which sucks, because just because someone has PTSD or something doesn't necessarily make them a bad person or bad worker, or that they're going to snap and go shoot up a building or something like that. I think my whole take on PTSD is this. It doesn't matter what you do. If I took anybody from anywhere and I'm like, hey man, I'm taking you to this place that's completely different than what you're used to every day for 7 months, and this is where you're going to live for 7 months. Doesn't matter the job. Doesn't matter if you're running combat operations or if you're just working in a grocery store. Yeah. 7 months, you're going to a place that you've never been, that you don't understand, and I'm going to leave you there. And then 7 months later, I'm going to come and you're going to come back. You can't go through something like that and not be changed somewhat.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And the varying amounts of people are changed obviously depends on their own mental way of processing stuff and what they went through and stuff like that. But looking at it like that, it's like everyone has PTSD. Yeah. Like everyone has it. It's just what grade of it is. So it's just, to me, I hate the stigma.
Yeah,
I hate the stigma, and I'm pretty open with my service. Like, a lot of people don't want to talk about stuff that they've done, or they're like, well, I just don't talk about it. Like, if someone asks, I just won't talk about it. And I don't necessarily, and that's cool. That's fine. I don't care about that. That's your own prerogative, because some people they're not ready to talk about it. But I think if you're ready to talk about it, you're just not talking about it because you don't think someone deserves to know what you did or they won't understand it. I would say go ahead and tell them anyway, because one, it's going to help you to talk about it, and two, it's going to give a better perception of what is actually happening in the military to regular people. Because there's so many other things. Like the guy I interviewed before you, he did humanitarian missions. He went to Haiti for the humanitarian mission. He did stuff. He went through as a civil affairs guy in Iraq and passed out soccer balls and stuff like that. So I don't know. It's just, people don't know that. People don't know the full story. They just see, military, probably been in combat, has PTSD. Look out for him. Is he going to snap?
Yeah.
So I don't know, but all right, man. I feel like we're coming to an end here. I appreciate you coming on. Is there anything you want to throw in at the end here, or any social media you want to shout out? Any companies or
No, I'm good.
nothing? Cool. Well, I appreciate you coming on and talking about some of the stuff because I know it can be difficult sometimes, and like I said, people are going to be like, "What is it? A Motor T guy coming on here?" But I think your time in Fallujah for sure is. People don't talk about the mortuary affairs and stuff like that. That's an unknown thing that happened that needs to be out there. And I appreciate you telling your story and highlighting some of the stuff you did. And so.
No problem. I appreciate your time.
Thanks, man.
Later.
All right, that's a wrap for episode 4 of the Former Action Guys podcast. Thanks again to my friend Michael Hanthorne for coming on the show and kind of going through everything that he went through as a Motor T operator and the stuff that he did in Fallujah. And again, on his second deployment. PTSD can be a real thing for some people, something that's really bothers them, stuff like that. And I think that's something that people need to be aware of. But I also think that people need to be aware that not every veteran has seen combat, not every veteran has PTSD, and that not every veteran should be treated like they have been because it's a stigma, and it almost makes you feel like people are walking on eggshells around you and stuff like that. And it just kind of sucks. So I don't know. One day we'll get past this whole stigma that PTSD is always a bad thing and that it's always going to end up with something bad happening because it's just, I don't know. Hollywood didn't help, and like I said in the podcast, people that fake PTSD also don't help. I'm looking at you. I'm not going to say anything actually. So again, thanks for coming on. Coming up, we have a few good episodes. I got my friend Chris Rothblatt coming on to talk about his time with LAR and then 3rd Anglico. He got out and went as a reservist to 3rd Anglico. Michael Farrell, who was a 1st Anglico Marine, he's going to talk about his time in Okinawa. He was one of the guys that got stationed there right out of MOS school, so he's going to kind of go through what that life's kind of like for those who've never been. I had never been, so it was I don't know. It's interesting to hear. I guess had I not been to Asia before, it'd be even more surprising, but it is what it is. So, and then a few more coming on, a few more episodes coming up. I just did a recording yesterday with my buddy who's was a Cobra pilot, so that should be cool. And I think people appreciate that, talking through OCS and then his flight school training and then coming to the fleet and then doing a deployment to Afghanistan. So that'll be pretty interesting. So anyway, thanks for checking out the page again, or thanks for checking out the podcast. Check out my website, www.jkramergraphics.com. Again, I do freelance graphic design. I also do freelance photography sometimes, but not so much anymore because I'm starting school in just a couple days on Monday. So here we go. But anyway, check that out. Check out my Instagram, jkramergraphics. And yeah, leave me a message at formeractionguyspodcast@gmail.com. And please make sure you leave review and follow, subscribe, whatever, on your favorite podcasting, listening platform. So anyways, have a good one. I'll see you guys next week.